So I've been a 3D printing teacher in a high school for about 4 years now, and I absolutely love what I do. And using Fusion 360 has been a great opportunity. The nice part about being a teacher is that you get to see all of the ways that Fusion 360 can break and a bunch of different ways that you can improve the workflow for you and your students. So here are the 8 tips I think that everybody should use in Fusion 360 in order to get the best organization and best workflow out of the product.
All right, so before we dive in here, I do have a couple quick things. First off, there are chapters down at the bottom if you would like to kind of move back and forth between the different tips that are down below and throughout the video. Also, if there's different tips that you think should be included or you would like to add so that people who find this video can find as much value in it as possible, please go ahead and leave them down below. I would really appreciate it. The first thing, and one of the things I don't see super often, is there is a search tool on Fusion. So if you were just in a regular Fusion sketch, as you see right here, if I just tap S on my keyboard, it brings up the design shortcuts or the search bar. So I could type in just create sketch or create rectangle, create anything here. Now again, there's all of these up at the top as well, but if I'm here and I just want to search rectangular pattern tool or 2-point rectangle, right, I can do that as well. One of the big things about this is if you're going through all of these here, it's sometimes a little difficult to find what you're looking for, and you know that it's a tool, but you just can't seem to remember where it's at. S, and then type in anything that you might want to do, search for that tool. Makes life a whole lot easier. All right, tip number 2 is that you can actually call out different dimensions from previous sketches that you've made. And what I mean by that is I have a line right now that is 20 millimeters tall. If I click and create another line, again, I don't really care what size this is. I'm going to click dimension here, click off to the side, and as this is highlighted, what I can do is actually click on the dimension from a previous line. And what that will do is call out that this you want to be either equal to or changed based off a previous dimension. So if I would just click enter, it would actually make that the exact same size. So what I could do is if I change this to, let's say, 18 millimeters, it would actually shrink the other one because I've tied the two of them together. Another thing that you could do, and this kind of ties in with tip number 3 here, is you can actually create functions inside of Fusion 360. So for instance, I have this already related to the first dimension. So what I could do is, let's just say I want to add 10 millimeters onto that particular line. I can do that just by clicking enter here, and you can see that it's tied into the previous one. So I took the first dimension, added 10 millimeters on, and now it's tied in based off a function. So I can continue to do that exact same thing. So for instance, I could do that here. I'm going to do dimension off to the side, tie it into number 1, and then let's say I want to divide by 2, I can do that as well. So now it's going to be exactly half of what it is previously. So again, kind of 2 and 3 tie in together where you can call out different sketches and different dimensions that you've made previously, but you can also add mathematical equations into Fusion. Okay, that's really, really helpful. If you're not sure exactly what a dimension is and you want to divide it, or you're not good with quick math, you don't want to break out your calculator, just throw it in Fusion super, super quickly. Even with that same thing, you don't have to tie it into something else. So for instance, if I want to just create this dimension here, oops. So say I want to do, I don't know, 84 or 85.6, oops, so that's not 6, 0.6 divided by 2. I can run that together as well, and it'll automatically give me that number. So super, super helpful, saves a lot of time there. All right, so tip number 4 here is to actually add components into your design. So if you are working with multiple different pieces, so for instance, if I have a rectangle here, I'm going to extrude this piece, okay? Now, when I make that extrusion, if I know I'm having multiple different parts in Fusion, what I want to do is over here where it says operation, I want to click that drop-down arrow and create a new component. Once I create a new component, over on the left-hand side here, it's going to give me a drop-down so that everything that I do in this piece here, so for instance, if I want to create a new sketch on the outside, maybe I create kind of an opening through the side using my offset tool here. If I kind of cut that out using my extrude tool here. Now, if you can see down in the bodies, everything is going to be kind of in one spot. So adding a component makes it really easy. If you're working with multiple pieces, that you can have a very quick way to turn different components off, select certain things to 3D print instead of trying to fight through all sorts of different bodies. Try and stay as organized as possible, helps everything to flow much, much better. Now, along that same line, Tip number 5 here. If I head into a different sketch that I've made, say that this is kind of what I'm talking about here, where I have multiple different bodies, different pieces in Fusion. And what I did is created each of these as their own individual components. For example, if I would hide component 2, I would only have component 1 access and vice versa. Okay. Now, one of the most common issues that my students face is they struggle to see which one of these operations in the timeline was for the specific section. So one of the nice things that you can do is, for instance, if you click on like the outside here, it will show you down at the bottom what bodies or what tools that it thought applied to that specific tool. Okay, so that's super helpful for sure. Okay, so again, anything that you click on the outside, it'll show you what ties into that specific thing, so you can edit that as needed. One of the other things that you could do is, for instance, if I'm in this piece right here, say I know that the piece that I want to adjust is in this component, but I'm not sure which one it is. If I click on this this circle on the right hand side here, it will activate this and only show me down at the bottom the specific pieces that applied to this specific component. Okay. Another thing is whenever you're ready to be done with that section, again, you can go down and edit these. Whenever you are ready to be done with those, if you just activate the main component, the main body, now everything returns back to normal. So super helpful if you have multiple pieces and you just kind of lose track of everything. That really saves a ton of time in trying to backtrack. One final tip along that is, if you want to as well, this like timeline indicator here is you can actually drag this back, and if you release it, it'll show you kind of different points. So you can see like, okay, once I get to a certain point, if it adjusts, I know, okay, the piece that I need to change, since it disappears, it's going to be this one here. Or I can go back a lot further and just see kind of at what point does my sketch or my product start to change beyond what I was hoping for. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. If you find value in this, what I'm showing so far, I would love it if you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. I've been having a lot of fun making these videos, and if there's anything in here that you would like to see or anything that you think should be added, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. And in the meantime, let's get back to the video. All right, so tip number 6 here is going to be adding parameters to my sketch. So Fusion is a parametric design software, meaning you can add functions, you can add equations in here to make your life a lot easier. So if I go into the Modify tab and I go into, where is it here? Change parameters, there it is. If I click on Change Parameters, I can actually add a new parameter. That way, anytime I type in a certain function, it's going to make it the exact same size that I'm looking for. So for instance, I can type in, let's just go with length, and maybe I make that 65.4 millimeters, whatever I wanted to do here. So 65.4, I click OK. Whenever I go into a new sketch then, if I type in a line, and instead of typing a measurement, I can just type in length, hit enter, and it'll give me that exact same size that I would need. Now, one of the ways that we can utilize this is I have a students creating a Lego project. So this would be very easy to type in the equation necessary for like the individual length and width, depending on the number of pegs that we have in our project. Okay, I have a video on doing exactly this type of project here on the channel. I'll link it up above here if you want to take a look at that. It's really cool. I made a Lego Star Destroyer. I'm very proud of it. You can kind of see them right back there right now. Okay, in that same kind of vein and tying into 3 and 4, if I would take this and type in my length, I could click length, keep this here, and then maybe I want to divide that. Oops. Maybe I want to go length divided by 2. Oops. There we go. I can do length divided by 2. That way it'll split that exactly in half. Just makes life a little more easy, and everything is going to be tied in nicely because it's an equation rather than you trying to potentially make small minor mistakes in your design. Next is going to be being comfortable with the Constraints tab. This is a super, super helpful box up top here because you have all sorts of constraints that'll make sure everything stays nice and organized as you would need it to. So I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but getting comfortable with this makes everything super, super nice. So one of the things that I use most often is going to be this equal tab, or this equal tool, excuse me. So I have a bunch of random lines here. And if I want all of these to be equal, okay, what I'm going to do is using my equal tool here. I'm going to click on all of these using Shift. Once I click on all of these here, the last one that I selected will be the one that it equals to. So for instance, once I click on that equal tool, again, you can see that this is the one that I tied into last. So click, Shift, 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 equal. They're all going to be equal to this one right here. Okay. Now, there's all sorts of different options that you can stick to. Again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but these help you to make sure everything stays nice and organized. So even if you would change this size to 60, all of them will stay the exact same size as well because they have that constraint applied to them. Very, very helpful. All right, one final tip, number 8 here, is going to be using construction lines. So a lot of times I personally like to use the line tool to separate things, to make things a little bit more organized, just to peace of mind myself. So one of the things that you can do is if you create a line here, click on that line. Over on the other side, there's a construction line option. So what that construction line does is essentially turns that into a dotted line that is not going to show up in your 3D print. Okay, so again, you can do all sorts of things with this here. You can make the construction line from the beginning so that you can cut out all sorts of different areas. Again, just to divide things or to make sure the measurements are correct, whatever you wanted to do from that point. And then it's very simple, is just turn those off. And now you're back to solid lines that are going to allow you to dimension and make your products accordingly, right? So this is not a selectable object, meaning it's not going to be a closed shape. This one is, so you can use construction lines. Again, a lot of times I use those to make sure the distances between parts are going to be correct. All right, everybody, so that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I appreciate your time. If there's anything that you thought should be added here, please leave in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this content like 3D printing, I throw a lot of different things out there in terms of builds, tips and tricks, etc. So I'd love it if you subscribed and hopped along for the journey. But that's going to be it for today. I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll see you in a future video. Thanks, everybody.